So someone recently left a comment on my sigil magic video asking, if I could share a story of my sigil magic successes. Now, I'm not particularly going to do that in this video, but I thought that I would share one of my most interesting and kind of most profound successes with magic to date, because I think it's a cool story and I think you guys will like it. So let's get into that. Hey guys, and welcome back to Tipharot. It's me, Matt here, and in this episode I'm telling you a little story about the most interesting, experience I've had with magic to this day. Now, okay, to be fair, I have a lot of, very interesting stories I could tell, and if you guys like this and you want to hear more stories, then I'll be sure to share them. I'll be sure to make more videos. But anyway, for now I just want to talk about this one particular story. Now, basically, this was a while ago and I was rather down on money, let's put it that way. I basically had no money left whatsoever, and I've been doing little sigils and different things like visualization and other methods and stuff to get me all sorts of little things here and there, but I'd never really addressed the money issue. And then it came to the point that I tried it. I did a sigil whatever to get me the money that I needed, and I also did some other methods and that, but I had this problem which some of you may know is called lust for result. And that's because, you're so concerned about whether or not it's actually going to work, if it's working or not, that you kind of start worrying and adding doubt into the equation, and you just completely mess up the whole working. Because, the whole point of magic is to, redesign your subconscious, essentially, and change what's going on underneath the surface so that your external circumstances then shift themselves. And this doesn't work if you have a load of doubts, if you're constantly thinking about the working, if you are, desiring that result extremely and just thinking about it all the time. So I didn't know what to do because, I really needed to resolve my situation, but I couldn't get rid of the lust for result. And so I'd been getting into visualization and stuff recently, and I started watching this guy's lectures, this guy called Neville Goddard. Some of you might have heard of him. He's a really good guy and he does some really great talks. He's passed away now, I think. These talks are from ages ago. I'm not sure the exact dates, but I was listening to them on YouTube. You can find them on YouTube. I'll maybe put a link in the video or something, or someone can put a link to him down below, or you can just search Neville Goddard in YouTube, whatever. Anyway, I was listening to his lectures and he talks about imagination and using your imagination to change your circumstances, which is essentially what I've been doing. And so his talk fascinated me, and he said this thing. He said, if I were to call you 3 days from now on the phone, and he basically said that you would still have to be certain that the result has come to pass. You would still have to be acting as if you've already got what it is that you wanted. You can't just, tell yourself that you've already got what you wanted, and then, 2 hours later when someone asks you if you've got what you wanted, just say no, because then you've completely ruined what you did earlier. You have to be completely certain and act as if you already are there until it actually comes to pass. And that just, it was like a light bulb going off in my head when he said that. And it was that missing piece, because I had this lust for result, and it was, causing me to have these doubts. One minute I was like, yes, I have this. This is the current state of things, convincing myself that I was already there, and then the next I was having doubts, so I was completely negating what I'd done earlier. And so this, struck me as something that I needed to change. And so I kind of came up with a way that I could keep myself in the state of, already having what it was that I wanted until it came to pass. And I did this, and I realised as well at this point that some of these parts of the method that I was doing fit in with the 4 worlds of Kabbalah. The 4 worlds of Kabbalah can also be associated with the elements and all of that, and they all have a certain part of, the mind. There's the idea that initially comes up, there's the emotions associated with the idea, there's the thoughts associated with the idea, and the actions associated with the idea. And I associated that with the 4 worlds of Kabbalah. And so I developed this 4-step method, basically, from this, and I thought, okay, I'm going to try this out. I'm going to try this out for this money. But the thing is, I also, at this point, I'd been getting lots of results with my other workings, but they'd all been, little things I didn't really care that much about. And so I wanted to prove to myself, I didn't just want the money, I wanted to prove to myself that this was actually my doing, that my method was going to actually achieve something. So at that point, I set myself a goal. I basically wrote down a 4-digit number. I wanted, a specific amount of money, and I wrote down a 4-digit number in that region, but it was, it wasn't like 1000, it was, 4 random digits that I picked. And I said, I want that exact amount of money. I don't want, 100 more than that, I don't want 500 more than that, I don't want 500 less than that, I want that exact amount. If I don't get that exact amount, then how can I know that it was my doing? And I didn't expect this to work, I thought this is too specific. So I did the 4 steps of my method, I carried them out, and I kept listening to Neville Goddard, and his talks were really inspiring during that time, and they helped me kind of stick through the process I was going. And approximately 3 days later, I didn't actually realise, but some money had arrived in my bank account those 3 days later. I didn't actually realise until the next day. I didn't check my bank account because I kind of just... it was funny, I was doing the method and stuff, but at that point, I kind of thought, I'm not sure if this is going to work, so I didn't want to get my hopes up and keep checking my bank account, basically. And next day I go into my bank just to see, honestly, although I'd been trying to keep myself in the expectation that I was going to get it, I kind of wasn't sure if I was, and I thought, maybe I'd get the money, but not the exact amount that I wanted. And I looked into my bank account, and I basically shat bricks, because I looked and it was the exact sum that I asked for, plus, 0.42, 42 pennies, 42 cents or whatever. The local currency here is grosch, it was 42 grosch on top of that, and I was just like amazed. I was like, what the actual hell? And the thing is, the money came from kind of an unexpected source. I had been working for someone a while before, and essentially, we lost touch. Basically, I wasn't getting paid by them anymore, I wasn't really working for them anymore, but they kind of did owe me, some pay, but I wasn't like on a contract or anything. It was kind of just unofficial, and so I didn't expect them to actually send the money, but especially after like 6 months or whatever, but they did. And the funniest part of it all was that the currency, conversion rates, because they were paying me from another country, had actually changed at that point. And because of how they changed, it ended up being the exact amount of money that I asked for, instead of the amount of money that I expected if they did pay me. So that was a whole string of random kind of events, and at that point I was just like, wow, okay. So at that point I actually wrote down the 4-step method that I did, and I wrote it in a little book. I have a little book where I write down all the coolest methods I use and stuff like that. And I just wrote it down, and I knew that this was something I'd be using again. And since then I primarily rely on that method when I'm doing anything magical or anything like that. I occasionally do a sigil or whatever if I'm rushed for time, but generally I follow that 4-step method. And that's actually the method that I write about in my ebook, because essentially, like, after I saw that, I was kind of like, wow, okay, I need to actually, turn this into something, because this is really, really, really cool. And the thing is about it, it's really simple as well. Like, it baffled me how simple the changes I had to make to simple things like visualization and that were, in order to get past the lust for results thing, because lust for results is what kills a lot of people's workings. And in this case, I found a way around it. So I thought, okay, I've got to write this down, and I've got to make this as well, really readable and really short and concise. I don't want to, make this into like some 200-page book where, people go through the 200 pages and they still don't understand the method. I want, just the core guts of it, and any, lead-up preparation that might help them understand the process. At the time, I wasn't really motivated to write, but because, this method was so special to me, I thought, I have to get this written. And I got it written, fairly quickly. It didn't take me that long to write it all down. I just had to go through it and make sure it was all right and that. And that's the thing, like, up until that point, I tried so many things, and it was just that one little thing that Neville Goddard kind of changed about my perspective that allowed me to, finish my method and get this thing that actually allowed me to push through lust for results. So that was really awesome for me. That was quite a transformational experience. Anyway, like, I have a load more other cool stories, with this method, with other methods, with sigils, all of that. And if you guys actually like listening to this story, then, let me know, and I'll share some of those stories as well. And if you guys enjoyed this and you actually want to check out my ebook and see this method broken down into detail in all 4 steps, then you can check that out. There'll be a link to it at the top of the screen. It's called 4 Steps to Manifesting Anything, and it's the method that I used in this video and that I've been using ever since. It also has some, beginner exercises and information to kind of get you familiar with why I do the process like I do it and how it came about and all of that. So if you guys want to check that out, the link's up there. Check that out if you want. And remember, guys, if you enjoyed this and you want to hear more more stories like this, then leave a comment down below asking for that. You know, specify what you want to hear stories about. You know, I'd love to answer your questions and share whichever stories that you guys want to hear. If you did enjoy the video, remember to subscribe up there because you've got regular videos that come out every Wednesday and Saturday. And if you enjoyed it, then you can leave a thumbs up. If you have any comments or questions, leave them down below. And if you want to keep watching, check out the video that's linked on screen. Thank you for watching, guys. Take care.